Kia ora, welcome back everybody. This time I'm doing a reaction to Mr. Phil Campion, former 22 SAS operator. He's got quite a popular channel, and this video is one of the ones that a few people have sent me through because Phil, from what I hear, has got quite a big personality. So this is his SAS Selection 01 pre-selection with Phil Campion. So let's jump in. All right, let's get to the video. All right.
Pre-selection then. Let's talk about pre-selection. What did I do to get ready for what is reputedly the hardest course in the military anywhere on earth? And I'm going to tell you that anyway, because that's how I truly do believe that, all right? Forget about everybody else. Selection for the SAS is the hardest course in the world bust. All right, there you go. From the horse's mouth, which is mine. Right.
Crack up. Straight off the bat, yeah, I can see why the guys that sent me through this video said he's got quite a big personality. He's got an interesting voice. Straight up talking about selection, it's the hardest course, bar none, basically, is what I'm hearing. I think, well, I don't know. I don't think everybody's going to think that, what I'm about to say, but I do think that regardless of which unit you come from, you may likely think that your selection is harder than anybody else's. But the truth is they're all hard. They're all bloody hard. And to know whether or not one is harder than the other, my 2 cents, you've got to go and do it. And just because you've passed one doesn't mean you'll pass another one or another country's. So just because I did the NZ one and the Australian one doesn't mean I would pass the British one, doesn't mean I would pass the Navy SEALs BUDS, doesn't mean I would pass a Delta Force selection, or, vice versa. You could rotate and spin those around whichever way you want. I just, they're all hard at the end of the day. But anyway, Mr. Campion, he reckons their one's the hardest in the world. I don't know. I don't know about that.
Okay, let's get straight on with it. What did I do to get ready? Well, I was on an operational tour in Northern Ireland, so I had to temper everything extremely carefully around operations and all the rest of the stuff that was going on at that time. So it wasn't probably the best time to get ready. That said, you've got to take what you can get. Now, I jokingly always say the hardest part of selection was getting on it.
What a really good point. I can't imagine when I was preparing for selection, we didn't have there was no operational tempo where I was in the infantry battalion in NZ. There was nothing. It was just training exercises. This guy, though, is on live ops in Northern Ireland, I think he just said, and trying to prepare for a selection course whilst, being operationally ready, all that sort of stuff with everything that would have been going on for them. That's tough. Yeah, this can be interesting.
And it really was. It took me nearly 2 years to get on selection. A combination of COs not wanting to let you go, to operational commitments, to not being ready myself, led to it taking so long to actually finally get through those gates and get selection started properly. In the meantime, You need to keep yourself on top of what you're doing. So what do you need to...
I wonder how long he had been in for. If anybody knows how long he was in the army before he went on selection, that'd be great. I'll just need to try and do some digging around as well. But if anybody knows, how old was he? 2 years to get onto the selection. Obviously, he just said there, a combination of COs not wanting to let him go, or commanding officers or OCs not wanting to let him go. The operational tempo, I'm guessing, was part of that as well. Likely or maybe short-staffed. But interesting that it took that long. Yeah, I wonder how old he was. If anybody knows, whack it in the comments. Legitimate ones.
Do you need to be a superhuman athlete? No. I've never been a superhuman athlete in my life, and I still ain't now, as you can tell, right? What you have to be is someone who can pass all their military fitness tests, okay? In my case, in the day, it was a BFT, it was a CFT, And it was no more than that really, an 8 miler and a mile and a half, and I could do those comfortably. You then had the 2 miler, the Brecon 2 miler. Again, I could comfortably pass a 2 miler with all my kit on. So my fitness levels were okay. Now this is where I always say to people, don't overtrain, don't go mad. Selection is going to give you every opportunity to fail without you going mad and giving yourself an opportunity. And I'll tell you now, guys on my selection turned up twitching like racehorses, all right? They were overtrained. They'd peaked far too early. It's all about getting yourself ready and all about keeping yourself in the right shape to attempt a course which is going to arduously knock the living daylights out of you. So
I love what he shared there about, guys peaking too early. I have to admit, because I was so young in the NZ one, I didn't notice, or I just wasn't aware of, people twitching or potentially having overtrained in order to be there. I think what I observed more was people overthinking and dreading the tasks that were days ahead, like the sand dunes or the swamp. We didn't know which one we were going to be doing. People were dreading the 60 clicker. And I was like, bro, we're only on day one. Some of them were talking about it and we're only on pre-selection. And that was a 5-day, 6-day process. And it's like, that's ages away. Let's just focus on today. So interesting hearing him talk about it. Makes me laugh when he says, do I need to be a superhuman athlete? No, you don't. 100% right. Clearly, he was able to pass all the physical standards, which is a requirement. You need to be able to do that because they'll condense and compress all of that. Those that have already seen the reactions to the New Zealand selection will have an understanding of that already. And you want to be able to pass those comfortably, like he said. But clearly, he would have had a heck of a lot of mental resolve as well.
what did I do? I never went mad on my knees. I never went stupid in the hills with loads of weight. Okay, I walked the hills, yes, but I never walked with large amounts of weight. I never took too much out. I took enough safety equipment with me and enough that I needed for a day's exercise in the hills. Some water, a little bit of food, some warm kit, some dry kit, some emergency kit, some, in those days, 10 pences for the phone and that sort of thing. You know the score, okay? That's what I had on me, all right? So I never went up in the hills with a great big pack. I never thought it necessary that I would have to go out and go absolutely mad and bust a gut. Because like I said, selection is going to do that for you. So don't do it before you get there. Keep yourself on top of it. I did loads of cardio. I did loads of swimming because swimming is low impact on your joints. And your joints are going to get absolutely hammered on selection because whatever weight you are, you're going to put up to 100 kilos on top of that when you're moving around, all right? It's a lot of weight. It's a lot of impact on those knees, hips, back, all the rest of it, okay? So don't go mad overloading yourself before you go. I did weights. I didn't go mad on the weights, but I kept enough muscle on the bone because another thing that's going to happen during the period that you're on selection is your body is going to dissipate, all right? You're going to lose a lot of weight. You're not going to be able to get the calories into your body that you need, okay, to put weight on, all right? You're going to be burning thousands and thousands of calories every day. You're going to be scoffing like a scoff monster. You are going to be pushing food into your clacker at every given opportunity, okay? I
Scoffing, yeah, having a munch, having a feed. I've never heard it. Scoffing food into your clacker. In Australia, the clacker is the other end where the food comes out. So, yeah, crack up hard case hearing these terms, and clearly the Brits use those terms as well. Scoff, I think that's where we got scoff from, or when I first heard it was from a few Brits. But that's interesting. Why I say it's interesting is he's talking about, you're going to be burning thousands and thousands of calories, but you're going to be scoffing. So I'm curious to know, because I've never done the British one. I haven't really had a good sit-down chat. I've heard bits and pieces, from people that have done it, or people that have passed the British SA selection and that have gone on to be badged within the unit, and they've spoken, bits and, because I haven't gone into a lot of depth asking them questions. Maybe I should have. But they have spoken bits and pieces about, there's a lot of kilometers to do, hard work, it's a hard course, but you get time to eat. So you start at a certain time, you're expected to be there, you work right through, when the end of that day comes, you're basically, and I could be completely wrong, so please let me know if I'm wrong. And Mr. Campion, he'll no doubt let me know if I'm wrong as well. But from what I've heard, you'll go through do the work, and then once you knock off for the day. Time's your own. You can go and eat. You could go to a pub, from what I hear, if you wanted to, as long as you're then back at work, ready to parade the next day and carry on with the selection course, then you're good to go. So if that's completely wrong, please let me know. I don't profess to be an expert about the British 22 SA selection course. I've not been there to observe it, never had the privilege to go on a long look or anything like that. And as I mentioned in one of the other videos, when I did start getting itchy feet, my family said, well, you can go, but we're going to stay here in Perth. So, yeah, so I didn't. But interesting to hear him talking about scoffing and getting the calories in, because, yeah, you would need it. And their selection goes for 6 months. So maybe that's why there's the difference in terms of being able to eat. Anyway, somebody let me know if you know.
I remember, eating and eating and eating. The other thing was, before I started selection, I had a good rest of 2 or 3 weeks over the period before I started selection, which was the January.
That's interesting. So clearly they're allowed to eat. Yeah, that's anyway. In the NZ selection piece, your food is restricted for that whole 10 days of testing. In Australia, really the food was really only restricted, from my experience, in Lucky Dip. That's when the food and the water and that goes for about a week or so, thereabouts. In terms of where you're burning a lot of calories, you're covering hundreds of kilometers, you're getting pushed to the limit, and you've got no food and you're getting no sleep. So I'm not sure what the story is here and how or why they're able to eat so much during their selection course. Obviously, I don't expect them to be sleep deprived and starving for 6 months. I think that would be crazy. I think there's obviously timeframes that have been worked out, and anywhere from 7 to 10 days seems to be a good amount of time to uncover who the individual is and push you to your limits, or to what you think your limits are anyway.
I took probably 3 weeks, maybe a little bit more, where I didn't do hardly any training, just some very, very light runs. But I scoffed. I ate like a pig. I tried to put on 2 or 3 kilos before I went down the road. And I'll tell you why. Because I knew that I was going to get thrashed. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to sustain myself if I was turning up, bulging out my T-shirt, busting out with no fat on my body and nothing to give. Because believe you me, selection is going to take a lot of that stuff from you, right? It's going to take a lot of weight off your body, all right? By the time you've finished, as we'll talk about when I talk about the hills, by the time you finish that, your body's going to be a mess, all right? So make sure there's some fat on the bone before you start, all right? Forget about, I know there'll be people watching on here going, well, they don't look that bad on Channel 4. Forget about Channel 4 for now, okay? Please just forget about what you see on there. That is an extremely good television program. Billy and that, awesome blokes, brilliant guys, all right? But that program in particular represents nothing to do with the selection I did, all right? There's some great things on there, some great bottle testers, some great things to test the mindset and all that sort of stuff. But it's filmed over a couple of weeks. Selection, as you're going to find out, goes over quite a long period of time. So what I'm saying is make sure that you've got a little bit of give in your body if you're going to attempt it.
Love that. That's great advice. I think that's awesome advice, regardless of which or what selection course you do. In NZ, you definitely wanted to have some meat on the bone. I love also how he spoke about doing a lighter phase or period. I think he said for about 3 weeks or so, 2 to 3 weeks, where he just did some light jogs, and he scoffed to put some meat on the bones. I'm sure he would have just made sure he could maintain and do enough to pass all those. I think he called it a BFT and a CFT or something like that for what they have with regards to the testing. Again, really great advice. I recall for me in the NZ one doing something similar, probably maybe about a month or so out, 3 to 4 weeks out for me. Just went into maintenance mode in terms of being able to do the runs, body weight stuff, swimming, stayed on top of that, some lighter pack marches. just to give my body a chance to recover while still keeping moving, still getting used to, but without thrashing myself. And I went to the gym a little bit more and definitely ate a lot more and put on, as he said, put some meat on the bones, because selection strips all of that away from you, as he's talking about here with the British ones. So interesting, really good advice from Mr. Campion, Big Phil Campion.
Make sure you've got something that you can actually sort of like throw into the fire when you need, and are digging deep, you need to be able to reach into your locker and say, I've still got a bit left. Because if you've burnt everything out, and I do remember guys turning up, like I say, twitching like racehorses, bouncing about, muscles on muscles, but no fat. And so when the body needed something to burn, there ain't much there. It's trying to burn muscle. All right. You've got to have stuff to give. Right. So my selection continued. My selection preparation consisted of hill walking, swimming, some light weights, a little bit of running, and loads of eating and drinking. All right. Okay. So it's very important. You're also, during that period, going to have to go and do, nowadays for sure, in my days it wasn't everybody, but they were just bringing it in. You have to go and do a pre-course. All right. Hereford.
I'll just jump in there quickly. Very interesting. Loads of eating and drinking, like the pack marching. I was like, yep. The little bit of running he mentioned, well, I needed to do more running because my running wasn't a strong point of mine. And it was also identified as not a strong point of mine on cycle as well. I got bailed up. I got bailed up about my running on cycle. So I had to put in extra work. So I did more running. Some swimming, yep. I did. I was doing did weights as well. But I wasn't a heavy drinker. I would say I wasn't a heavy drinker. Mind you, some of the boys when I would go out might suggest otherwise, but I don't think I was in comparison to others there that were able to drink and put away quite a lot of alcohol when I did used to drink. And I dialed that right back before going on selection. So, and scoffing, I probably started being more aware and paying more attention to consuming more food as I got closer towards selection, because I was fairly lean than for me anyway when I was preparing for selection, and my fitness obviously went up as well. So I was just focusing on training and doing my job, and that was it. I wasn't really too worried about the type of food that I was eating. I was still eating pretty much whatever I wanted. So I wasn't like, making sure I got the right amount of macros or anything like that. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. I wasn't trying to replace certain calories or trying to work out how many calories I lost or doing percentage or amounts or so many grams of protein per kilogram that I weighed or anything like that. I wasn't doing any of that. I just ate what I felt like eating, and I ate when I was hungry. So there wasn't any specific timing that I was following. But hearing him talking about scoffing and drinking is hard case. I don't know too many people I don't think I know anybody that spent time, scoffing and drinking or drinking a heck of a lot before going on selection. But clearly he did. Worked for him.
They're going to want to have a look at you. You're going to turn up and you're going to probably do some quite strenuous physical activities. You're going to be tested on your weapon skills. They're going to look at you as a soldier. They're going to ask you some basic questions and all that sort of stuff. And they're going to make.
So right now, from memory, I think he's talking about pre-selection. He had to rock up for a pre-selection. I don't know how long the pre-selection goes for their one.
Sure in their own minds that they're happy that you attend their course. Basically, so you don't turn up and make a complete mug of yourself and get thrown off within a day of being there. And that does happen. People turned up on my course and went almost the same. People failed the basic fitness test, which is a 1.5 mile squatted run out and a 1.5 mile individual run back. I think you get something like 10.5 minutes to do it. You could walk it quicker. People failed that. Okay, so what the briefing courses do is eliminate the possibility of everybody turning up who's just going to be a complete waste of time and a drain on everybody's resources, because to load you onto the course, to get all your paperwork done and all that sort of stuff, is an effort for somebody, and it's a wasted effort if you literally turn up, boom, and the next day you're gone, isn't it? Now, I also know that some people, some characters, some creatures, used to turn up on selection just so that they could say on their documents, attended Special Forces selection. Because it used to say that on the documents. It would say, attended Special Forces selection. And, of course, they're not going to say, came off because he was a Muppet, all right? It's going to say, didn't go any further or whatever. It's not going to put you in a bad picture, all right, however you were, all right? So that, for some people, was a good thing to have on their documents. That don't happen anymore, I wouldn't have thought. It can't happen because, like I say, the briefing course is going to go, no, you're not fit for purpose.
That's good it doesn't happen, but yeah, I like how you use the term some creatures. I don't know of that happening in NZ or in Australia, but you do get a lot of people that withdraw on day one that can't even pass. You would have seen on the reaction to the first among equals, one of the guys coming over the 10-minute cutoff, 10 minutes 20 or whatever it was, or 15. He was over the time anyway and immediately removed from the course. So he should be, but that is, I love what Phil's mentioning here because it is a drain on somebody. There is a person or people that are getting all this information that then have to enter it and load it onto the system. That then generates and sparks other things that need to happen down the line logistically, from allocation of weapons, putting them onto the roll, onto the register, allocating enough equipment for the course to cater for all the students that are going to be on there. If there's stretchers that need to be provided in terms of bedding initially for the course, when the course starts, before they go bush, etc., the amount of radios, the spare batteries, the list goes on and on. Like there's a heck of a lot of effort and work that goes in behind the scenes on the selection courses, and people are moving to get all that work in order before candidates rock up. So if you've got those creatures like Phil's talking about, they just want to have it noted on their documents, it's a good thing if they don't have that now. What would be good is if they still did it and then they said, yeah, attempted Special Forces selection, but withdrew at own request or dropped out or failed or whatever it was on day, whichever day it was. That might deter some of those people from having it put on there if it's just a blunt, to the point, attempted Special Forces selection, but withdrew at their own request on day one. That might cause them to not want to go and just do it for the sake of having that little piece written on their documents. Bloody Muppets.
Purpose, son, off you go. Do you know what I mean? All right, so that's that dealt with. Then really it's a case of getting your paperwork done, getting all your ducks lined up. Don't do what I did, right? I cancelled all the insurance on my car, all the tax and all that, and then the bloke who was going to give me a lift failed to give me a lift, and I ended up driving down there, no tax, no insurance, and I actually ended up on orders for it because I got caught by the police. So, yeah, don't do that, right? Don't cancel everything because the probability is that you're going to be coming home at some stage, right? The probability is that you're not going to pass the election if you go, and that's not me being doom and gloom. That could be for a number of reasons. It could be for injury. It could be for not being suitable. It could be because you just physically can't do what you're trying to do. Okay, and that's going to get you a one-way ticket back home. All right. So don't get cancelling everything before you go. Don't get throwing all your stuff away. Don't get burning all your bridges back in your old unit, because when you find yourself back in your old unit, you're going to be saying to yourself, and you might not be allowed to go and have a second attempt straight away, and maybe not at all. So don't burn your bridges before you go. Massively important.
That's interesting. So for there in the UK, I love all the comments that he's talking about. Don't burn your bridges, or that sort of stuff, the tax and insurance, or the insurance stuff that he was talking about. I never had that issue. I didn't have a car when I was going on selection. But interesting. Yeah, burning bridges. Yeah, I don't know of anybody that was going on selection in NZ or Australia that would burn any bridges with anybody. If anything, there was probably more so people back in your unit that probably were, what's more common is that they more than likely doubt you or doubt the individual. I'm pretty confident. I know my OC, John Boswell, Major Boswell, or I'm not sure what rank he is now. I know he's still serving. He was my OC at Victor Company at the time. I remember him having a chat with me and asking me, he asked me if I thought I was going to pass. I said, yes, sir. And I don't think he believed me. I don't think he thought I was going to pass selection. And because of how I interpreted the way he asked me, that just poured more fuel on the fire for me. I was like, You don't know me. You have no idea. You don't know how bad I want this, and I'm not coming off that course for those other 3 reasons that I spoke about. So I love what he's talking about here, but what I was trying to get across is that I never knew any guys that were going on selection that burnt any bridges, that said, yep, see you fellas later, I'm never coming back. It was probably more people in the units, whether it's battalion or whatever unit you come from, that were more than likely doubting the individual. That was at least more common in my experience anyway.
Okay. Once you've passed, you might consider burning a few, but not until you have passed, because that would be stupid, right? So, yeah, that's pretty much, in a nutshell, what you need to do. Let's take away a summary from that then. Don't go mad. Eat lots. Make sure you've got some wastage on your body you can afford to get rid of, okay? And that's about it. Next time, we're going to talk about the hills. And we're going to talk about how I felt on the hills, all right? Because it was epic. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah. Neat, all right, Phil. What do you say? Don't go mad and eat lots. Make sure you got some fuel to burn. Those are his 2 top tips. But packed in there. First, thank you, Mr. Campion. Awesome insights for the British selection. And I think listening to him, there's definitely takeaways there that you can use on any selection. At least in my opinion, the New Zealand and Australian one, there's things that you could take away from there. Obviously, how the selection courses and programs are done between those 3 units, as an example, is very different and unique to their own situation. And the environments are different too. You got, I think, in real dry heat in Perth, Western Australia, very, very hot. You've got cooler weather here in New Zealand, and then you've got much cooler weather in the UK, I suppose, depending on which one you do, whether you do I don't know if the UK has a winter selection and a summer selection. I don't imagine there's too much difference between the two, unless you've been born and raised there and you notice the difference, I guess. But yeah, he's given some really good advice. Having some wastage on your body, so putting some weight on before you go. Don't go too crazy. He's spoken about. For me, in mine, I needed to train. I don't think I went too crazy. I had a good idea and good understanding of what my weaknesses were, which was running. And I wasn't sure how strong my legs would be under load with a pack on. Mentally, I felt like, yep, whatever the task is, I'll carry on and do it. It's fortunate enough, or unfortunate enough, we had some difficult field exercises in training leading up to. So I felt like I was good to go in that space, or it definitely helped me anyway. But I did gradually increase the weight of my pack, and I was carrying quite a heavy load, quite a heavy pack for very long periods of time in my training because I felt I needed to. So the individuals that are going on, you should hopefully have a good idea of what your weaknesses are and what your strengths are, and then work to try to meet those as best you can. So definitely get some running, definitely get some swimming, definitely get the pack working, definitely get the running, and definitely make sure you can move your body weight, whether that's the push-ups, the pull-ups, the sit-ups, the dips, etc. Make sure that you can do all of those things and be consistent enough that you know you've put in the work, that you know you've got not only the mental reserves, but also the physical reserves because you've put the time in before you've got on selection. So thanks again, Mr. Campion. Thanks again to those that sent this video to react to. Some really good stuff. He has got a whole bunch of things. I'll probably look to chip away at some of his other bits and pieces as we go. Anyway, whatever it is that you're going through, whatever challenges you may be facing, whatever it is that you might be preparing for, keep turning up, stay in the fight, stay consistent, and keep smashing. And until the next video,